This is a redo of my visualization system, trying to explain it for playing by ear on the piano. And in the previous video, I was kind of all over the place, didn't explain it very well. People were very confused to what the point is. This one will explain it very well because I organized notes this time. So playing by ear on the piano, the goal is very simple, right? You just want to listen to a song and then play it by ear on the piano. And then how do you do it? I'll explain that, what the problem is, why I created this in the first place, because this is kind of the solution to the problem, and just a couple extra notes afterwards. So let's go ahead and go through this one at a time. So I'm going to do an example, but before we do an example, let's explain the foundations of how to play by ear. And I think that's where a lot of people were confused. So I completely brushed over it, but basically the method I used is functional ear training. So you can download this app. It's pretty helpful for at least getting you, understanding that each degree of the scale sounds different. So as you can already see, also I set it to be really fast. Let's see if I can slow it down. I don't think so. So I can tell that it's that one. So the settings aren't optimized right now. It's going really fast, and it also plays the cadence every single time. Usually when I practice this, I have it set to just play the cadence once, and then I just hit a bunch of notes afterwards. But you can tell that each degree of the scale, this is solfege right now, the system that I don't like. It's like the automatic system, and I recommend you not to learn it this way. But basically, what my visualizer is, I guess I'm jumping ahead a little bit, is it matches up these shapes with the solfege, or I guess degrees of the scale. So the green square is fa, and then blue, so and so on. And the idea of this is if you practice this enough, eventually you'll be able to tell like what each note is. And so on. So that's the method. And jumping from that method to actually playing things by ear, let's try to find a random song. Music today. Oh. Okay. Let's go with this one. If the song is really complex, that could make things hard, but hopefully it's a simple one. I'll try my best to demonstrate what I've gotten so far. I've done this since last year, playing for 100 days straight, and then I kind of stopped because I was like getting very confused with the solfege system, which is the problem that I'll mention later. But for now, let's demonstrate. This is definitely going to be copyrighted, but whatever. So based on just hearing whatever I just heard, I can sort of tell that the tonic is ba, and I would just need to find that on the piano. It sounds higher than C. I would guess maybe around here. Okay, I guessed correctly. It's F. Let's zoom in just slightly. I think that's a tonic based on just hearing it for however long I heard it for. Let's listen again. So it starts off with the blue square, which is C. And then you can hear da, da. You can sort of tell that it's the magenta circle to, I'll use numbers for now. So this is the scale, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 7, 1. Ignore my terrible singing, but 7, 1, 7, 1. Like you can just hear the degrees of the scale while you're listening to this. And what I used to do all the time was basically, in order to hear it better, I would sing the solfege. I would say ti do. So, like I would start associating the solfege with each degree of the scale. And that's how I managed to get to the point where I am now, where I can hear it. Let's actually get some singing in here. I'm still trying to avoid copyright, so I don't want to like play it for too long. You can hear that's the tonic. You can hear that that's... I'm starting to switch the association. That's la, I guess, or 6, but I was gonna say purple triangle. You can tell. So I can do demonstrations for like a full piece later, or you can look at my playlist of my 100 days of practice. Like I actually recorded every single practice session and of me listening to music and actually trying to play it by ear. But that's the point of it. So that's the example and introducing functional ear training. So each note in the scale is distinctive. So sometimes they're also called like the keys colors. So we're using F as an example. You can tell that each note is distinctive in the scale, but it sort of sounds the same in different scales. That's what relative pitch is. So for instance, let's just do a very, very simple example. So that's Twinkle Twinkle Little Star in F major, but you can change it to C sharp major or D flat major. It all sounds the same, so let's do it one more time. A major. It still sounds like the same melody. Obviously it's different frequency, but it's still the same melody. But you can tell that 1 is being played, and then 5, and then 6, and then 5 again, 4, 3, 2, 1. And so hopefully you guys understand that's what functional ear training is. It's to help you distinguish each note of the scale, and that's how it relates to playing by ear. It helps you gain relative pitch. So how do you get better with it? You just practice it a lot. You practice scales a lot. You practice listening to scales, like singing scales and all that stuff. I practice a lot of singing scales, and eventually you just internalize the different distinctions between those notes. But the issue for me, I guess I'll try not to skip, but so the offered structures are solfege and the number system. So how do you sing scales with solfege? So let's go a range I can actually sing. And let's not do, sorry, let's not do C major because I feel like it's too easy. Let's do B flat major. Do, re, mi, fa, sol. Okay, I'm singing too high. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. So I would just like sing that a lot, or sing scale patterns like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, sol. So stuff like that, and I haven't done that in a while, but singing those scale patterns definitely helps you with recognizing the distinction, but I really do not like, this is where we get into the problem. I really don't like the solfege system, and I don't like the number system either. The number system is better than the solfege system. So for instance, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 6, because it carries more information. So by creating an association with 5 here, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you at least create an association with the degree. And you can argue, yeah, you can create that association with the letters too, like so will be 5, but that's like creating an extra step for the association. And the reason this is a problem, like the problem that I want to solve, the reason this is a problem is because there's auditory chaos. There's just too much information going on in terms of what you're hearing. So instead of actually focusing on the pitch itself, I start to associate that with me. Mi, re, do. Like I start thinking this is me, but what I should really be doing is actually hearing the pitch itself and not being like, okay, that's me. because it creates this extra auditory association, jumbling your brain and making you think that this is me, like the sound of me, how me sounds like the word me, with M and I and the vowel sounds and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden you have a song that is singing like lyrics like, oh, do you love me or something like that. And then they end with me on this note instead, which is so. Then you're gonna be like singing me, but you might accidentally sing me because you've created that association with the word. So it's very annoying. I've noticed that on myself. This is not just theory. Like whenever I sometimes sing songs and I hear like some lyrics that say like, oh, so do you love me or something like that. So I start thinking of the fifth degree, and then me, I start thinking of the third degree. That's not the only reason why it's bad. The other reason is major and minor confusion. So when you start doing this for a while and you've internalized the major key, let's switch F major to D minor instead. Now this, you can call it Do if you want. Do, re, mi, fa, so. New solfege system. Kind of clunky in my opinion. But you can do that, or you can call this La. This is called La-based minor. La, ti, do, re, mi. So now you have two systems, and it gets really confusing. It's like, which one do you use? And I've tried using both of them, but now my brain gets confused sometimes. I'm like, when I hear this note right here, I can either think le or fa, either one. But sometimes, like when I'm using do-based minor, for instance, I hear this one, and I can also call this fa. Fa, mi, re, do. But in a major key, it's called re. So it's like all of a sudden I'm playing in a minor key now. I'm trying to play by ear with a minor key, and then I'm hearing fa and re and stuff like that. And I'm like, which one is it? Is it this one or is it that one? Sometimes my brain switches them. So it gets really, really confusing. And I'm like, this is such a bad system. It doesn't make things easy. It should flow well and be like perfect is what I'm thinking. So hopefully that's very clear. La-based minor, do-based minor causes confusion with the distinction of the notes because of this association with solfege. So if you build up your association with solfege to each degree of the scale, you start getting confused when you start introducing the minor key and La-based minor and do-based minor and stuff like that. It just becomes chaos, basically, auditory chaos with words. Why are words being associated with pitches? It doesn't make sense because it causes you to have two things to listen to, two audio inputs in your brain, and I don't think that should be happening. So the number system does the same thing. It also makes you think 1, 2, or 3, which is audio input. Like you're hearing. I mean, you could try your best to just see 1, 2, 3, or 5, but like most of the time we associate those numbers with sound as well. Like we say it out loud, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's one of the flaws of the number system. But let's see. So this right here, another problem. It's not a problem. I just wrote this here because someone mentioned it in the comments. They didn't. I explained this so poorly. They mistook this for me saying that this is C, but this is more like the first degree, second degree, third degree of the major scale. But if we're switching to minor, this could be also the first degree. It doesn't matter. Numbers don't really matter here. Only the sound matters. Only the sound of this of relative pitch matters. So the reason staff is for perfect pitch, in my opinion, is because like the staff doesn't really give you that much information in terms of relative pitch. It just tells you exactly what the notes are. So for instance, we have nocturne and E flat major right here. We know that this is a B flat. We know that that's a G. We know that that's an F and so on, right? But it doesn't tell you, oh, B flat, what is that in the degree of the scale in E flat major? Well, we can figure it out. It's the fifth degree. And then for G, it's the third degree. So we know that if you practice the solfege system, then you know that this is so. So, fa, mi, re, do, so. And then you play the next note, you can hear it as mi as well. So, do, mi, re, do, mi. You hear it, right? You can hear it as the third degree and the fifth degree. But again, the solfege system makes me hear an extra thing, which is so, the word so and the word mi. And I don't want that. So the solution to that is coming up with a visualization system that doesn't have audio input. So that's what the colors are for, and that's what the shapes are for. This is purely visual. So it doesn't confuse your brain with two audio inputs. It's just one audio input, which is the pitch. So you're actually paying more attention to the pitch. And then you just associate it with the blue square. And you can also see the interval go up to the yellow triangle. So I guess I can explain this a bit more now. So first degree, second degree, third degree, fourth degree, fifth degree, sixth degree, seventh degree, and then back to the tonic. So that's what it is for a major scale. But again, you don't have to associate it with numbers, just associate it with the sound. So this right here in a minor scale is the first degree, but it still sounds exactly the same even if you play a minor key. Like for instance, let's play, right? That's E flat major. Now let's play the purple triangle, which would be the tonic for the minor scale. The relative minor of E flat. But this degree still sounds exactly the same. You can call it 1, you can call it 6, it doesn't matter. It sounds exactly the same. It still sounds the same. So that's why this visualization, instead of numbers, instead of solfege, where things change around depending on major or minor, you still have this as the visual representation of this pitch inside of this collection of E flat major and C minor. So it's basically a representation of the major and minor key at the same time, solving the problem of like having to switch or decide between La bass minor or Do bass minor for solfege. And then also solving the number system where you're switching between, okay, this is 1, 2, 3, but now this is 1, 2, 3, and so on, when you're switching between major and minor. So that's one problem that this visualization solves. And I like it a lot because now I can just associate that pitch with this purple triangle. And also when I'm using this, I look at it all at once. Also, I've only practiced with this for like a week, so I don't know how well this will go. This is all theory. This is just a proposal of a better system. Like I don't know how well this will go. I'll find out. But either way, this triangle right here, like I said, each of these shapes and colors now represent a pitch instead of it representing, instead of it being represented by solfege or a number. Hopefully I've made that very, very clear. And hopefully I also made it clear why the staff is for perfect pitch, because it just doesn't represent like what the degrees are. It doesn't represent like what the pitches are, because the pitches will sound differently if you only have relative pitch. If you have perfect pitch, then none of this matters to you. You don't need this. But if you're working on relative pitch, like mastering it, then having a visualization like this, where it doesn't matter what key you're in, you can be in, like let's say for G major, this right here will be the red square. And even if you're in E minor, this will still be the red square right here. So G major and E minor pair, like it's represented here. Every key is represented. Every major and minor combination is represented. It's basically what I'm trying to say. And you only need to have it once in front of you like this. And obviously, I'm not trying to create a system where it's like a notation system. Like I'm not saying like, okay, I'm gonna write all this stuff on the staff. This is mainly just to like look at while you're listening, so that you can practice like seeing the visual representation of like things going up and down in terms of frequency. So let's go to the next one. So purely visual association, I basically hopefully hammered home that point. Intervals true to spacing. So true to spacing is basically just saying right here for, I kind of have to call it by numbers for now. Let's say we're in a major scale. The first degree, the tonic, is right next to the 7th degree. So let's go with A flat major. There's a half step, right? And that's why there's only one space in between them. But when we're going from the tonic to the 2nd degree, you see this line in between. And I also changed this recently. I decided to strike one line into it and then two here to make each of the non-diatonic notes distinctive. That way, like, we don't have clones of any visual thing. And eventually I need to color these, like probably something in between red and orange and something in between yellow and orange. But back to the example, we were doing, I think, was it A flat? I think so. So you can see here, from the red square to the orange triangle, there is this space in between. So it's true to spacing where, like, you can also see right here, whole, half, this half step is represented right there. And the staff simply doesn't represent that. So you can look at things and say like, oh yeah, that's, you know, that's an interval of like a 6 or a 7 or whatever, like on this piece of paper, like right here, a fourth, right? But you don't know what kind of fourth it is. It doesn't give you the information on, like, right away in terms of like what kind of spacing it is. Like if you see a B and an F, for instance, you think that's a fifth. Oh crap, I think I just broke this book. But, and technically it is. But it's more like the tritone instead, which can arguably be the fourth as well. But actually no, it is a fourth, represented as a fourth on the staff, B and F flat on the staff, but it can be considered a fifth as well, like you know, just by going down one half step. And it doesn't represent a perfect fifth all the time, but for this, you can sort of understand. You can understand that better. Also, I realized that the layout here, when I move by half step, I nudge it towards the left a little bit. And if you ignore the things nudged to the left, this is the pentatonic scale. I thought that was kind of cool. But anyways, I just feel like this visualization has, you know, I worked on it and thought about it a lot. And one of the comments on the video was saying like, oh, why don't you just replace it with emojis? And obviously it's a joke, probably a jab at the fact that I'm just using, you know, colors and shapes or whatever. But it's not just random. There's actually an alignment with nature. So when we're talking about light, Roy G. Biv, we're talking about frequencies as well. When you go from red to purple to violet, you actually are increasing in frequency. Same thing with a scale. So I'm also looking at the camera right now, so it's a little hard to play. I'm actually standing up, not sitting. But you're increasing in frequency. Same with this right here, Roy G. Biv. So there's alignment with nature, and I feel like any system needs to be intuitive, you know? And if you've ever seen a rainbow in your life, then you have the intuition that this is the order that it goes in when you increase frequency. So matching that with sound frequency just felt right. And the magenta right here, if you ever look at a color wheel, if you ever do video stuff, the magenta is the color that combines purple with red. And technically this is not a real color. Like, this is a color that our brains make up to sort of loop this around. And then it goes back to red. Same with the scale. So F major. This sounds exactly the same as this. It appears red, but it's not. double the frequency of this one. So this frequency is double of this one. But it keeps going higher and higher and higher, but it loops in our brain, similar to how the color wheel loops in our brain. So that's why I think it's a better system. So it's not just random. It's not just like, oh yeah, you can use any color or shape or emoji or whatever. I try to make it as intuitive as possible. And then let's move on. So figured bass, let's actually talk about the number system real quick, because intervals is another method of how you can play by ear. A lot of people use the interval method, and I know each interval, but I don't really use it to play by ear. I kind of just know how each degree sounds like. But for intervals, one of the reasons why I don't like the number system is because, let's say you're playing this interval of red square to blue square, right? Now we call that 1 to 5 if you're gonna use the degrees. We're in C major now. So 1, 5, 1, 5. But now let's say we're in A minor. Now we're gonna say 3, 7. 3, 7, this is 3, 7. So it gets confusing. It's like, wait, but it sounds exactly the same. You know, this interval sounds exactly the same in C major and A minor. But we're calling it 1 to 5 for the degrees, or 3 to 7 if you're in a minor key and you're saying that this is 1. But it sounds exactly the same. So it's like, there's so many confusing things that come along with those numbers that add to the chaos. And to me, it's much easier to be like red square to blue square. It doesn't matter if it's in A minor or C major. I still see that as red square to blue square. It's the same sound, like I said, like for a million times now. We're creating an association with the sound rather than the numbers or the solfege or the words or anything else. So just pure visual information with pure auditory information, like combined. And then we have, so there's no number confusion with the intervals. And we talked about the nature alignment with the color wheel. And stable versus unstable and figured bass. Those are two extra things. You don't really need the shapes, to be honest. If you just do the colors, that's fine. But I feel like the shapes give it more of something you can see. And I try to represent stability with squares, or I try to represent major keys with squares. And then I try to represent stability with like the way the shape is like set. So this is a less stable note. The second degree is just, let's go with F sharp major. So the second degree always wants to fall down to, or usually, most of the time, to the tonic note. So that's why it's on this edge. And then that's why this is also, this square is also on the edge, or on the corner, not edge, corner. So. It wants to move. Consonance and dissonance, basically. So that's why these shapes are the way they are. It's supposed to offer information versus like a random emoji that represents nothing, you know? So that's the whole purpose of having it this way, so that while you're using this visualization system, you're also intaking more information at once, like knowing that it is like not as stable of a note, and that a minor chord is built on this degree of the scale. So that's minor. So that's the whole point of the shapes. It's not just random. And then, yeah, so that's the extra information. Again, you don't need it but I just find it like much better to like have as like a distinction between notes and not just colors. Because if it's just colors, it gets a little like, it's not solid enough. And shapes are very, very solid. Like we're very used to seeing shapes all the time in nature and associating somewhat like stability with the way the shapes are formed and like how they are and stuff like that. So that's a reason why I chose the shapes that I did and why I said it the way I did. So hopefully that makes a lot of sense. Major, minor, and diminished right there. And mostly I made it a circle because of the fact that if you ever do figured bass stuff, diminish is represented with a circle. And also, like, if you think about it, if I replace this red square with like let's say we just had a non-diatonic chord all of a sudden happen. A very common one, I would say, is, let's go back to C major. A very common one is the fourth degree, the 4 chord, I guess, turning into a minor. So instead of representing this green square with a square, you can turn it into a triangle if you wanted to for that moment, if you ever want to use this as like, the way I imagine this as like a system where you can actually use it as a notation system is sort of like synesthesia, where you have like lines coming in and then like it changes according to the timing. That's how I would actually imagine it, as a full notation system of what to play, and then you know it just tells you what the key to play on top. But this is all assuming you know every key. Like, I'm gonna sit down. Oops. Like, you have to know every key very well if you're planning on playing by ear. It's simply, unless you're going to transpose everything to like a common key that you know. But this is working under the assumption that you know every key very well. Because if you know every key very well, you know what the associations are with these shapes. That's the only way I'm able to use this. If you don't know the keys very well, then you're going to have a hard time like creating those associations. And I've played piano for a very, very long time at this point, so it's something that just happened naturally for me. So extra notes, this is the degree identification system, also interval system. I actually have no idea what I meant by that. I mean, I think it's just what I've been saying all along, which is like we are identifying the distinctive notes in the scale, the distinctive degrees, but we're not associating them with numbers or the solfege system. Okay, yeah, I remember what I meant. So basically, I'm saying that there's also an interval system of playing by ear, where you hear a note, you find out what that note is, and then you're like, oh, it moved up a minor third or something, and then it moved up like a perfect fifth, and so on. Like, I cannot do that. I cannot do that. And one of the people that I like the most in terms of playing by ear is Frank Tedesco, and he doesn't do that either. He uses the interval system, but only associating it with the tonic of whatever the key is. So he would hear this note, and then know that it's an interval of a perfect fourth. And then he would hear this note, and then he would know that it's an interval of a minor seventh, and so on, based on the tonic. Not like switching interval methods every single time, like, oh, this is the new note, moved up by a perfect fourth, moved up by a major third, and then so on. Like, I think that gets really hard. I'm not sure you can do that with fast music unless, I'm not sure. I'm sure there's people out there who can do it, but it seems really difficult compared to like just hearing a note and knowing what it is versus trying to figure out every single interval between notes. But that's basically it. So the last part is it's simply a theory, it's just a proposal, and it needs testing. Honestly, I really wish I did not create so much association with solfege, because literally I hear the solfege all the time now. Whenever I hear songs, whenever I hear the scale, like I hear the solfege in my head, I hear the words in my head, and I hate that. Like imagine a song that scrambles the words of solfege. Like let's say that now this is so and this is la. And every other note of the solfege is like put on this scale. Can you sing it properly? Probably not. You probably have to practice it a lot to break the association and be like, oh, la, la, mi, re, and so on. It just gets really confusing to use solfege. I really dislike it. So that's a problem that this thing solves for again, the 2 millionth time. Association with something purely visual versus something that has auditory information. And it also serves a lot of other functions like I mentioned. So hopefully that makes sense. And again, I'm going to be practicing with this for about 100 days and I'll check back. I'll probably post to my actual piano channel instead of my random channel and see how things go. But yeah, and again, if you want to check out like some previous songs I've practiced with for playing by ear, I've never actually like fully mastered a song playing by ear. I kind of always move on because after at a certain point you get it turns into muscle memory. So I'm like, okay, I want to practice the hearing aspect of it, not the playing aspect of it. So I always move on to a new song after I feel like I started to use muscle memory. But I'll leave that link down below if you're curious, and I'll also leave a link to my actual piano channel, which is currently very small, but I plan on eventually growing it, especially after like I get the skill, because I will work on the skill until I have it. Like it's a skill I really want, and I really tried to think about this a lot to create a system that's better than solfege and the number system for, you know, learning how to master relative pitch using the functional ear training method. Okay, please, you know, let me know if this wasn't clear. I really tried my best this time to make it as clear as possible. Eventually I'll make like, you know, an actually well-edited video where I explain things one at a time very concisely, and that will be if the system actually works very well. I didn't want to make a video like that just proposing a theory, you know, just proposing a incomplete system basically. Okay. Again, let me know if you have any questions or input or ideas down below. Yeah, a lot of people were very confused in the comments, so I just felt like I needed to make this video. And I definitely did not explain a lot of the fundamentals. I just assumed people knew some of these things already, and that's just a bad assumption. A good explanation always at least goes over the fundamentals a little bit. But yeah. Okay, that's it for this one.